Mr. Mokadi, welcome. Good to have you with us. Walk us through the numbers. Very nice growth, particularly as you transition to a subscription-only business.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yes, we had a record Q4 and a record year in 2021. The most important number as we move to subscription business is 44% growth in our ARR, reaching $393 million. And we also are reaching a point where we're going to complete our transition earlier than we planned. And we announced that we will complete our transition to be a subscription company by the end of Q2 this year.
Who are your biggest, or I don't expect you to give away proprietary information, but do you sell to enterprises, I assume?
Oh, love talking about that. Yeah, we created a category called privilege access management, and our space is identity security, really securing humans and machines and their access to enterprises. So we work with the largest enterprises around the world. We have about 7,500 customers around the world, more than half of the Fortune 500, more than 35% of the Global 2000, across verticals, really, from banks to manufacturing to healthcare, you name it.
Where do you see the biggest threats coming from? How do you identify them? Where do you see them coming from? And what areas of threat are growing fastest?
Yeah, I think I've been in this business for more than 20 years. I don't remember a more heightened threat environment. And then, despite the crackdown we mentioned earlier in the segment, actually, it's an attacker's moment where you have both nation states and criminal organizations really leveraging the fact that organizations have become more distributed and the whole digital economy. What we're seeing is that with, of course, the remnants of the SolarWinds attack and even the vulnerability of Log4j, there's become an assume breach kind of mentality with enterprises where it's very clear that the determined attacker, and it could be just a criminal organization, not just nation states, gets that first foothold. And so that's why it's so important to protect what we call the inside, but it's a distributed inside, the identity part.
Let me ask you about something that's been on my mind as I've watched the developments on the borders of Ukraine. If that situation erupts in a way that people talk about, an invasion, and the West responds with sanctions, what would you expect Russia to do on the cyber front? Might they say, all right, you're going to play with sanctions, we're going to come in and mess up your enterprises, your consumer economy?
Well, it is very worrisome. I would say that even as part of the initial part of conflict, we've seen in the past that the first line was actually cyber attacks against Ukraine, and that some of them already leaked unintentionally. If we looked at what happened with NotPetya in the past, it was intended against Ukraine, but it through supply chain ended up around the world and caused a lot of damage. So we could have that as part of the conflict, but to your point, definitely there is that risk where there'll be heightened, I would say, elevation of cyber attacks. I don't believe it's going to be an all-in because that will be close to global warfare. But it could be an increase, and it's already a very heightened state as we speak.
And so clearly, it's something you have thought about, and your leaders at your company have thought about actively.
Yeah, we look at it. There's this correlation between geopolitical tension and the rise of cyber attacks, and often criminal organizations are just riding behind it, or there's less enforcement of criminal organizations when you have these sort of tensions. But we are really in the long game. We're all about helping our customers, enterprises, and governments prevent the major part of the attack, the takeover, where they can assume the identity of their employees or their strongest privileged users.
Yeah.